Hey everybody, this is Sean Lisha from A Blue Thread, not Sean Lisha from the Karaite Press, and not Sean Lisha from the Karaite Jews of America. Those guys are hacks. This is Sean Lisha from A Blue Thread, here to give you my unbiased reaction to the Chief Cornerstone, Rosh, Pina, by Hacham Tovia Babovich. All right, as you can see here, this book is about Rabbi Anan Hanasi, or Anan Ben David, Rabbi Benjamin the Hawandi, and Rabbi Daniel Kamisi, who were, according to this book, according to the cover, they assembled the first stones for the foundation of the Karaite faith, or the Karaite movement. And I'm going to talk to you about three cool things about this book. I can just go up here. Three cool things about this book. There you go. Three cool things about this book that I think you should know. Before I get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about how this book came to be. Who was involved in making it. I'm going to get out of the way here and put some respect on these people's names. You'll see Hacham Tovia Babovich. He is the person who actually wrote the book, and it was translated and annotated by Joel Davidi. You may know Joel from the internet. He's all over the place in the Jewish groups. So before we get into the book, I want to tell you that right now, today, you could buy this book on pre-sale, $10. I don't make any money from this. All the proceeds from this book go back into the Karaite Publishing Project. But before we go any further, I want to tell you why I think this book is super cool. Here's something that my uncle, Joe Pesa, Yusuf Musa Pesa in Arabic, the former acting Rav of the Karaite Jews of America said. He said, who would have dreamed that Rosh Pina, the pocketbook I held 60 years ago in Egypt, would be published in the United States and accessible for the whole world to read. So check it out. This is actually a really important book. Tons of historical information. Let's dive in. All right, so here are the three small tidbits that I think you might find interesting about this book. The first part of this relates to Hacham Babovich's Literature and Karaite Literacy Project. I first started talking about Hacham Babovich, Hacham Tovia Babovich, during a class I did way back towards the beginning of Shelter in Place. 10 Karaites the world needs to know about. It was, I think, May 12th is what it says here, although it seems like way more than 6 months ago or whatever it's been. It's been a long shelter in place. In any event, first started talking about Hacham Tovia Babovich and what he did. And it all goes back to this Torah scroll here that you see on the image. And the reason why I thought it was interesting is because I had learned growing up in a mostly conservative Jewish background that virtually every Torah scroll, I was told every Torah scroll, starts with the letter Vav. And this is not just conservative, you see this also in Reform and Orthodox as well. Starts with the letter Vav on every page. So every column starts with the letter Vav. And the idea is that a Vav means hook. So it's hooking the last thing on the bottom of the previous page to the top of this page. And Vav means and. So it's hooked by this word and. Well, the Karaite Jews of America has a Torah scroll that doesn't actually have a Vav at the top of every page. If you look at it, it's got this aleph at the top of every page. And I was so intrigued by this that I explained it to the synagogue that this scroll must have been written by a Karaite and not a Rabbinite because it doesn't follow this traditional Vav at the top of the page. Now, since then, I just want to put a small caveat. Since then, I did learn that there are numerous scrolls that don't start with a Vav. These rules weren't strictly followed in every time and every place. Anyway, I'm talking about this scroll, and I totally missed the most important thing. So like if you look at the right here on the screen, you'll see that there's some Hebrew inscription. This inscription is actually from the inside of the Torah case, the hard case. And it says Sefer Torah Zeh. So this book of the Torah, this Sefer Torah, and it says, it is not known the name of the person who donated it, and therefore I'm going to call it number 6. And the person who wrote this is none other than Hacham Tovia Babovich. Now that's really interesting. I'm going to call this number 6. Why is he doing this? Well, in Rosh Pina, in the Chief Cornerstone, the book that we are talking about today, he tells us exactly what's going on. He talks about the books of our Karaite sages held in the library of the Egyptian Karaite community. And he talks both about printed and manuscripts. And he says, since arriving in Egypt, which was June 21st, 1934, and he tells us that, to all my intents, my first undertaking pertaining to Karaite literature was to catalog in special catalogs all the spiritual riches possessed by our community, such as old Torah scrolls. And it says, these were heretofore haphazardly strewn in various corners of the precincts of the religious court. So that's exactly what I'm seeing in this Torah scroll exactly what he's talking about. Hey, this Torah scroll, haphazardly thrown. I have no idea who donated it. I'm going to call it number 6. So probably he found 5 others before that. I'm just guessing. Who knows? And then also you look at this next page here. It says that he arrived in Egypt in 1934, and the first thing that he did, one of his initial undertakings, was to document all this. And you could see the inscription here is 1935. So, very quickly after he arrived, he's undertaking this project. And I've seen visual proof of this, right? The Torah scroll I've held in my hands this Torah scroll, and he's telling us about it in Rosh Pina. That's the first cool thing I want you to learn. The second cool thing has to do with Hacham Tovia Babovich's naming of the Musa el-Dari synagogue, the Rabbi Musa el-Dari synagogue in Abbaseya in Egypt. So the cover of this book, thank you Shimra Star for an awesome cover. Amazing, you always do beautiful work. The cover of this book is the synagogue, the Rabbi Musa el-Dari synagogue. And he named this synagogue, Hacham Tovia Babovich, and gave the name to the synagogue. Now, I should just tell you, I'm a little bit biased. This is my father's synagogue growing up. And you could see a few things that it's known for. One is it's got the full 10 Commandments written there, all the entire verses of the 10 Commandments. Another thing it's known for is it's got this massively high, soaring skyway of a ceiling, really high up. And that's something that everybody who's visited the synagogue remarks upon. It's beautiful. Anyway, biased, beautiful synagogue. I wish I could go one day. Please God, make that happen. And anyway, in this book, in the introduction to the book, it says that Hacham Tovia Babovich named the synagogue. And by the way, we also gave you some more context here that the synagogue's construction was completed under the predecessors of Hacham Babovich, but it was he who gave it the name. And part of the reason he gave the name, it says right there in the introduction, part of the reason he gave it the name was to re-educate the Karaite community of Karaite community of Egypt about their the famous and important Karaites who came before them. All right, the third and final thing I want to talk to you about today is the cool formatting. So when Hacham Tovia Babovich wrote this book, he originally wrote it in Hebrew, and it was simultaneously translated into Arabic by the community. And we not only retyped the Hebrew, we also retyped the Arabic, and we translated it from the Hebrew. So you can use these paragraph markers to go and check across all 3 languages. So you want to see what's going on in paragraph 110. The Hebrew and the English are facing each other, so you could see right there. But if you want to go and see what the Arabic says, you could just go to the back of the book where the Arabic is and pull up paragraph 110 and learn more about how this book was understood or translated into Arabic. It's also a great way, if you want to practice your Arabic, a great way to keep your Arabic fresh or practice your Arabic. Relatedly, you'll see, and this is the same page you just saw, all these cool annotations. So Hacham Tovia Babovich, he's saying, at the beginning of my ventures, I decided to compile 3 different catalogs. In the first, I listed all the Torah scrolls, both new and ancient. In the second, I listed all the works authored by Karaite sages. And in the third, all the works by rabbinate brethren. All of these I recorded in Hebrew. Of course, he's writing all this in Hebrew. Notice that in Egypt, for an Arabic-speaking community, he's writing in Hebrew. He says, all of these I recorded in Hebrew, of course, which is the language of our holy Torah, and in which, according to the 6th principle of the 10 principles of our faith, every Karaite individual must be proficient. And then, if you look at the little footnote there, or it's actually a very long footnote there, we talk about the 10 principles of faith, and we talk about Hacham Judah Hadassi, and we list out the 10 principles of faith related to him, or according to him. And you can see actually at the very bottom there, the last 2 words are Daniel J. Lasker. That's because this is a really long footnote, and on the next page it talks about the book that Professor Daniel Lasker put together, one of the preeminent Karaite scholars of today, of forever. Thank you for all the work you do, Professor Lasker. In any event, one thing I also want to point out is, so again, copious notes. It explains all the principles of faith here, and we do these types of notes everywhere else also. We did not simply cite religious Karaite sources. You could see here this citation to Professor Daniel Lasker talks about, it's an academic source. So we wanted to provide people with the most academic understanding of this book. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. Look, I obviously can't be objective about this. I helped work on the book. I go and raise money for these projects. I help publish them. So I can't be objective about it. I think you will enjoy it. That's my subjective belief. I think it's awesome. I think, again, subjectively. What I can tell you that is objective is that it's currently a $10 pre-sale price. And objectively, I can tell you that every 500 books we sell at the Karaite Jews of America, the Karaite Press, or any of these Karaite publication projects, every 500 books basically pays for another book. You know, again, I don't make any money off of this. The KJA, Karaite Jews of America, the Karaite Press, they're not trying to make any money off of this, just trying to get information in people's hands. So if you are interested at all in supporting future works, go ahead and buy this one. Again, we need about 500 people to pay for the next book. All right, take care.